Hello, welcome to Reading with Bruce, or Learn to Read with Bruce. This is lesson number 11. We're going to pass the halfway point in today's lesson. And if you've been keeping up with the lessons and practicing every day, doing your exercises, rereading your lessons, the story lessons and the songs, you should by now be starting to feel some confidence in your ability to read. So we're going to just continue with each lesson, building your confidence and building your abilities. For today's song, I picked out kind of a silly little old thing. It was from when I was a kid. It's called Little Red Rented Rowboat. I like the title for a reason that I'll talk about in a minute, but we'll go ahead and just jump right into the song. So here we go. And once again, Kevin's on the Elmo today. He's going to be moving the words down for you to talk or sing along or read along, whatever's comfortable for you. And I'll try to keep the speed at a reasonable pace. Little red rented rowboat, little red rented rowboat, not much better than no boat, but at least it'll go when I row, 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 at least it'll go when I row, 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 row. I saw two pretty girls sunbathing on a pier. They wore bikinis way down to here. I waved and they waved. They said they'd like a ride, so I helped them climb inside to share my little red rented rowboat, little red rented rowboat. Not much better than no boat, but at least it'll go when I row, row, row. At least it'll go when I row, 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 row. Keeping Jerry busy on the camera there today, jumping around, because the chorus is just at the top.
Okay.
Along came a sailboat big enough for two. The skipper saw the girls, I knew what he would do. He waved, and they waved. He helped one climb inside. Just one girl to ride there in my little red rented rowboat. Little red rented rowboat, not much better than no boat, but at least it'll go when I row, row, row. At least it'll go when I row, 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 row. I'll wait till we get down to that next verse there. There we are. Hot rod motorboat roared up behind. The girl took a look, and I could read her mind. She waved, and he waved. He helped her climb inside, leaving me with wounded pride. And we stay there this time. Row, 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 row. Here comes the clincher verse. 1 hour later, I saw them again. Motorboat out of gas, sailboat out of wind. The girls waved, and I waved, and then I passed them by, with my nose held way up high, me in my little red rented rowboat, little red rented rowboat. Not much better than no boat, but at least it'll go when I row, row, row. At least it'll go when I row, 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 row. Kind of had to jump around on you there a little bit, but I tried to keep it slow so you could follow along. Several things I like about this particular song. Not really much of a song, musically speaking, but if you notice here at the top, the title, Little Red Rented Rowboat, has two things I like. There are a lot of Caldwell units, ed, ent, ed, o, o, and it's also alliterative. In literature, we have a thing called alliteration where we repeat the beginning sound of consecutive words, and it has a nice effect to the sound of the phrase. Go ahead, Kevin, if you would put the one with the scrawling on it. So you can see, once again, I've circled the Caldwell units, and I've underlined with 1, 2, or 3 lines the instant words. In the whole course, there's only one word that you might not be able to have any clue about. And if you get it from context, but at something it'll go, starts with an L, but at least. Second verse isn't too bad. And again, you got pretty, sunbathe, or sunbathing. Bikinis is kind of a weird word. But ride and share, these are all words that you might be able to figure out just from reading the song. Ride again in the third verse, and there's the word new, which is very close to the word know. Could we move it up a little bit? You got hot rod, behind rhymes with mind, pride, which rhymes with inside. And finally, hour, wind, nose, and held. So not a hard song to practice reading. So again, these are all available at the Elkins Randolph County Library. I just took the copies down there today. We're recording today is Saturday. This will be on TV Tuesday night, of course. So a great way to practice your reading by reading, real life songs, even if they're silly. Okay, now I told you the last couple lessons that we're not doing the exercises anymore. You have to do them on your own before we start the lesson. So hopefully you've done them because we're doing something different tonight. And Kevin, go ahead and put on our next sheet if you would. We listened for 4 times to Israel Kamaka Vivo Ole singing the Hawaiian version of Twinkle Twinkle. And what I'm doing with that is taking the melody to that, and I put our units in a little song for us to help get them into our heads. And Kevin's just going to point to the unit as I sing it. Able, able, ack, ale, ale, ain, ache, ache, and, art, Asian, A, can, sense, ed, e, l, n, end, ent, s, est, ick, ite, ike, ill, im, ing, ip, ish, ist, ock, oi, o, or, ound, ow, oi, shun, ub, So that's our unit song, and we'll be singing that, or I'll be singing it for the rest of the lessons, just to help you get those little units into your head. They are in alphabetical order there, which is not the order they appear in the Caldwell program, but that's okay. I just did them that way for ease of sound, similarity of sound with the A's, E's, I's, O's, and U's. So let's move on then to our new units for today. And Kevin's going to put up the master sheet of units, page which also is available at the library. They have this down there if you want to study up on your own or go ahead of the program. You don't have to stay with me for lesson by lesson. In fact, I was reading through Ed's manual. One thing he points out is a lot of people, by the time they get to the 15th lesson or so, they're just ready to go reading on their own. They don't have to even finish the rest of the lessons. So if that happens for you, great. If it doesn't, that's okay. So today, lesson 11, our new letter is N, which we pronounce N, like neat or nifty or nice. Our blend is SN, like in snack or sneakers or snake. And our units today are Ed and IP. And I think it's kind of neat. We're halfway through the Caldwell program, and we have the Ed Caldwell unit today. There's Ed. I'm glad he included himself as one of the units. And we also have IP. These are pretty simple, not real tricky. We have 3 sight words, whole words, has, had, or have. And we've had them a lot before. Those are also 3 of our first 100 instant words, so they're not anything new. Something I want to point out about the Ed unit, though, as I've mentioned many times, the units are good for consistency of sound. But Ed is usually pronounced Ed, but it also has 3 other sounds. Sometimes we hear it as id, like in wounded. Even though it's ed, we don't say wounded, we say wounded. That's just English colloquial speech. Sometimes it just has the sound of a D or a T. For example, the word walked. The ed actually sounds like a T, but it is an ed. And the D sound is, can't think of an example right now where it doesn't have the ed sound, but there are words in English that are like that, where it just sounds like a single D rather than the ed. So just keep that in mind. Usually always try it as the ed sound. If not, try one of those other three. Okay? So that takes us to the Caldwell story, I believe. And I'm going to slide over here behind the Elmo and do some reading. The stories are getting longer now, although the stories will still be down at the library up to the end of story number 15. And they'll be the front and back of a page now. These ones start two sides.
I lost him, Kevin. I lost his sound.
Oh, really? Did I? It's on. Testing 1. Testing 2. Okay.
Okay, Bruce.
You good? Okay. Go?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so here we are with the story number 11, Testing Ray's Blimp. You might recall lesson 10, the girls had made Ray a blimp and he was a little bit worried about how it was going to go. So the title is Testing Ray's Blimp. There's Ray looking a little bit worried at the blimp, which is attached by the rope. So, will the blimp end the pain in Ray's back and feet? Ray says to the girls in a sheepish way, will I have to test the blimp? Question 1. What does it mean to seem or look sheepish? Well, I always think of it as embarrassed. Do you think Ray wants to test the blimp? I don't know about you, but I think he looks pretty scared too. There's the picture of the girls heading towards the blimp. Ray's hiding behind the bush. May and I will take the blimp on a test trip, says Joy. May says we had best have the mail sack in the blimp to make the test. Will Ray join the girls on the test trip? Ray says he will stay back and rest. He feels the blimp may flip with him. Question 3. Why does May say they should take the mail sack with them on the test flight? Well, it seems only logical if he's going to be delivering the mail, doesn't it? Why did Ray say he was not going on the test trip? Look back. Ray feels the blimp may flip with him. Why do you think he really didn't go? I think Ray's a big old scaredy cat. I don't know about you. So here's the girls getting ready to go on the blimp. The girls take the blimp from by the tree. Joy points the blimp to the sand by the lake. Will the blimp make the trip and land by the lake? Question 6. Why do you think the girls wanted to fly toward the lake? Seems if they have trouble, they're going to have a softer landing in water than on land. And here's the flight. There's the picture. Somebody's flying out there, the mail sack going down, the blimp got a which is onomatopoeia. It's got a leak and a tear there. The blimp slips from Joy's hands and takes May into the trees. The ship flipped and landed on a pointed stick by the tree. The stick ripped the blimp's foil shell. Bad news all the way around. There's May in the tree. It looks like she's in a nest. May fell from the ship and landed in a nest in the tree. She nicked her ring finger on a nail in the tree, and she fell from the tree. She was shaken by the landing, and her hip joints pained. Where'd May finally land? In a nest in the tree, but then it says she fell from the tree. So let's see what the next page has. Yep, there she is on the ground. Joy and Ray run to May. May said, "Fingers and hips will mend. Will a ripped blimp shell mend?" What's May mean when she says this? Well, by mend, I guess she means can they fix it? Looks like snack time. Joy ran to the mill. She brings back a pain pill, an ointment, and snacks. The three rest and snack. Joy and May make plans to mend the blimp. There's old Ray, bent over from the weight of his mail sack again. Ray says, I may want to walk with the mail. The girls talk to Ray, and Ray says, we will mend and test the blimp. What do you think the girls talk to Ray about? Probably fixing the blimp. There they are, patching it up. Ray says the blimp has to have rings to stick his fingers into. The girls make Ray the rings. May and Joy stick strips of foil on the ripped joints. The blimp is mended, and May is mending. The girls want to test the blimp. Why do you think Ray wants rings on the blimp? Maybe to hang on with, huh? What does May is mending mean? Does it mean she's getting better? Ray still doesn't look happy, and the girls look upset too. Ray is annoyed. He says, a blimp has to have a steering wheel. May and Joy seem sheepish. The blimp lacks a steering wheel, the girls say. Why do the girls seem sheepish? Guess because they forgot a steering wheel. Looks like they got the wheel on there. Joy and May bounded to the mill to make the steering wheel. Ray said, I will rest. He rested and snacked. The girls ran back with the steering wheel. May sticks the steering wheel on the back of the blimp. Did Ray help the girls make the steering wheel? I believe he was busy resting and snacking at the time. It looks like he's off for a successful flight this time because they're clapping for him. Ray says, I will test the shimmering ship with the steering wheel. He walks to the blimp with his mail sack and makes a thrilling trip to the sand by the lake. Ray's trip fills the three with joy. The girls had wanted Ray to make the test trip. Did Ray have a good trip? Looks like it's going okay so far. What two sentences tell you? He makes a thrilling trip to the sand by the lake. And Ray's trip fills the three with joy, shows that he had a good trip. Now, down at the library, we have this page here for you to practice words for Lesson 11. These are just all other words that you can read now with the new Ed and IP units. And this page is there also, Words for Lesson 11 continued. I just remembered the other type of word that has the Ed unit, but just the single sound of a D. A word like rained. Like it rained a lot today. We don't say rain Ed, we say rained. Okay, so now we're ready for our practice. And I'm going to move over to the other board there, Jerry. And Kevin's going to read some questions. And you should have a paper at home numbered 1 to 20, and here we go. Should be spelling, yes. Go ahead.
Spell shed.
Shed. Okay, so we've got our units, Ed and IP, and I'm going to use them. And I want the sh sound before Ed for shed, so we have sh, Ed.
Change the blend to spell bled.
Bled. I still have my Ed unit, and I want blah, which is the two letters b-ul, blah. Bled.
Spell a boy's name.
Just using the Ed unit again?
Yeah.
Okay. How about Fred? Ed.
Spell trip.
Trip. Okay, again we're using blends. So we have the IP unit now, and I want tra, which is two letters, t-er, trip.
Add one letter to spell strip.
Strip. If I add a sound in front, strip, I'm going to get S-T-R-I-P.
Subtract 2 and add one letter to spell snip.
Snip. I still want the S sound, but I don't want the TR anymore. I'm going to drop those two and put an N in here, and I've got snip.
Spell nailing.
Nailing. This is old units, the ale and the ing units. So, ale, ing.
Spell snack.
Snack. Again, the old unit, the ac unit, and we want the SN sound, sn, ac. Now be careful you don't put AKE there because that's the ake unit and people get them mixed up all the time.
Spell snake.
Snake. Here we go. So one way to remember the AKE is we have one of those rules that we say if it ends with an E then the vowel has a long sound. So a long sound is A, snake, with a silent E on the end.
Spell and put in alphabetical order has, had, have.
Okay. Well, I'm going to put them over here. Has, had, and have. And now we're going to put them in alphabetical order. HA is the same all the way through. D comes before S or V, so had is first, and I'm going to separate with commas. S comes before V, so we have has, and V-H-A-V-E is the third one. So we had to do two things, spell three words and put them in order alphabetically.
Write the letter of the last sound in snicker.
Snicker. R.
Write the letter of the last sound in mailman.
Mailman. N.
Write the letter of the first sound in nick.
First sound, nick. Same letter as number 12, N.
Write the letter of the first sound in hip.
Hip. H. H.
Write the letter of the third sound in sled.
Third sound in sled. S. O. E. And that is a short sound of the letter E.
Write a word that rhymes with red.
I'm going to use shed because we're listening to the ending sounds now.
Write a word that rhymes with flip.
Flip. Got my IP units here. I'll take trip.
Write a word that rhymes with break.
Brick.
Break.
Oh, break. Let's look further down. Snip, nailing, snack, snake, snake, break. There we go.
Write the letter of the sound that occurs twice in peep.
Peep. We hear P at the beginning and P at the end. Peep. You got to be careful on that too because it does have two E's in it, but you only hear E once. You don't say P-eep, we say peep.
Write a two-syllable word from lesson 11.
Shed, bled, Fred, trip, strip, snip, nailing. There's our two-syllable word. Okay. And I think it's time for our reading tip number 11. If you want to just put it on the whiteboard there, Kevin. It's at the bottom of that page. Or put it on the Elmo, I mean, yeah. So reading tip number 11 says, we'll zoom in on that. Read to a younger child. Children's books are easier to read. It's good practice for you, and you'll also be helping that child to be a better reader because children who are read to grow up to be readers. I'm hoping that some of the people watching this may be my age or older. Maybe you have grandchildren that you want to read to. Well, hopefully by now you're at the point where maybe you can read some of their books to them. It's fun. One of the greatest joys I've had as a parent was reading to my kids when they were little, and they grew out of it too quickly and were reading on their own. So reading to kids is good. All right then, what's up next here? The unit search. And I'm sorry, no, instant words, right, Kevin? So we'll quickly review our second group of instant words from the second list. And we have, starting with number 126, this will be, I think, the second week we've done these. We have great, where, help, through, that's kind of a tricky one there, much, before, line, right, to, mean, old, any, same, tell, and boy. Go ahead, slide it up a little bit. And you should be noticing a lot of these have units. There's an an or there, an ite there, an oo there, an an old, an L, an oi. Okay. Follow, came, want, show, also, around, form, three, small, and set. Okay. So that's the next 25 there. You work on those every day, you'll have them in no time at all. Okay. Now, if we could put up the page that has the picture or the story on one page, Kevin, we'll do a little bit of unit searching. Just a little bit, and only a little bit of word building. So, and this is the first side of the story. The story is on both sides of the page from this week on. But again, here's lesson even has a unit in it. S. We have est and ing, and a, and m, and ill, m, and there's a unit in the word. Ain, a, ac, and, e, a, e, ish, a, ill, est, and m. That's the first page of the story. All the other words like girls too, and these are all our sight words. So, and why do I keep doing this? Because if you'll take the time to do it, you'll learn the units much better and much more quickly. They'll be ingrained in your brain, and they'll just be automatic. Also notice, I do not spell them, I say the sound of the unit. Don't try to break the unit apart. Ed makes that point very strongly in his materials with the program. You don't want to break them apart into letter sounds. Just say them as one unit. M, a, ing, est, and so forth. Okay, go ahead and slide that off for a second, please. And we'll just remind you again to take some time on your own and take your new units, Ed and IP, and try making some words, going through the alphabet. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J is a name. K, L, okay. M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, and so forth. Go through the whole alphabet. Use the blends that are on your Caldwell page. It has the blends column there. You can put some of those in. Like, we used Fred and snip to make more words. You can add units at the end like ing, snipping, and so forth. So practice with your word building. Those are things you can do on your own at your leisure. Okay. Now we'll write the song. If you can go ahead and put the song up for a second, we'll do a little bit of writing. I didn't bring the is music today, so you'll have to hum the tune to yourself if you want. But again, writing in longhand, even just printing is fine. Anything to get your mind and body connected with the act of doing words. So I'm going to do 3 different things today. I'm going to start printing. And I'm going to go pretty quickly, as you'll notice. Speed writing. By the way, this word refrain here means that's another word for chorus. I just like refrain because it has the ain unit in it. Now I'm going to write in longhand. And you'll notice, since I'm going quickly, it's kind of sloppy, but that's okay. Sometimes you should just practice for speed. Then you can write like the doctors write when they write out your prescriptions. And the pharmacist has to call them back and say, what was that? Now I'm going to switch my hands. And much more slowly now. Oh, that's pretty bad. But writing with the non-dominant hand is another great brain exercise. It's kind of frustrating. Kevin could do this much better than I left-handed because he's naturally left-handed. But frustrating as it is, it's still a good way to exercise your brain. And that's what reading's about. I still believe that reading is about probably 90% confidence and 10% ability. And if you've stayed with it this far, you should be well on your way to being a reader. Okay. That's pretty bad. But anyway, I exercised my brain. Okay.
What medicine is that?
Yeah, it looks like I took some medicine before I wrote that third line, doesn't it? Okay. I want to introduce a little technology today, too. So I'm going to put this on the Elmo. I'll have to erase the board. And you're getting to the point where maybe in some of your reading, if you're reading like the newspaper or something, you might be finding some words that are giving you trouble and that the units don't help with, and they're not instant words. So this is just a little dictionary, and they're about $35 from the Franklin Company, but it's a talking dictionary. So if you don't have a computer that talks, you can use this. My wife found some on eBay, I think, that were much cheaper than, I think she paid about, maybe, I don't know, $8 or $10 or so. But anyhow, you turn it on.
Hello.
Is that coming through, Jerry? Okay, so I'm gonna just put one of my favorite words in here, and it's gonna talk the whole time.
Literacy.
And then I'm gonna say speak,
Literacy.
and I'm gonna enter it, and it's looking it up. And I'm gonna say speak again.
Literacy. Ability to read. Noun.
And then it tells you what part of speech it is. It's kind of a cool little thing. Now this one is the beginner's version. It's really a kid's version, but it has quite a good vocabulary, although some of the words, the more advanced words, won't register with it. I'll give you an example of one that we're going to be looking at next week. So I'm going to clear it, and we're going to put this in.
P-A-R-A-D-O-N-I-C-A-L.
And that word is paradoxical. Let's see what it says. So paradoxical is not in this dictionary, but literacy is. So
Goodbye.
we're saying goodbye. But the Franklin Company makes these. I don't think you can find them locally, but you can go, if you have a friend or somebody, go online, you can get yourself one. Okay. And moving along, we're going to do today's real life reading. I picked out an article or an essay by one of my favorite writers, Andy Rooney. This is from Years and Minutes. There's Andy's caricature there in the middle. And this is from 1985, some of his essays from 85. And we've got the Super Bowl coming up this coming Sunday, so some of you might be watching that. This essay is about Super Bowl 19, though, which is quite a few years ago, about 27, 28 years ago. So let's see, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger here, Jerry. Can you zoom down on that? Okay, so, and I'm going to get my marker here. So this is Andy Rooney writing. The Super Bowl game is next Sunday, and this year it's being broadcast by ABC, opposite 60 Minutes. Now remember, this is 1985. So it's sort of nice of me to mention it at all. But because a lot of Americans who aren't real fans watch the game, I thought it might be a good idea for me to explain some of the phrases you'll be hearing from the game announcers. Okay. When you hear one of them say, "This is a passing situation," he means it's third down. When he says, "This is a kicking situation," it's fourth down. He was really hammered. Hammered is this year's word. It means that someone was blocked or tackled. Shaken up, when they say someone was shaken up, it means the man lying on the field probably has a broken leg or a dislocated shoulder. When a player is hammered, he's often shaken up. That's a smart move by the coach. Here the announcer is either a former player or a former coach, and he wants you to know he understands the game better than you do. He lost his concentration. The receiver dropped the ball. He's an underrated player. This doesn't really mean anything. The announcer is just filling time. He has great hands, means he can catch the football. This game is far from over. This means that the game really is over. It's in the fourth quarter. There's still 9 minutes to play, but the score is 37-3, and the trouble is they have 14 commercials they want to show you. So they don't want you to leave. That's why they say this game is far from over. What a year this young man has had. This doesn't mean much either. Don't forget, they're going to be on for 6 hours next Sunday, and they have to keep talking. That's a ball that never should have been thrown. They say that when there's an interception. I'll bet he'd like to have that one back is another way of saying the ball was intercepted. The clock continues to run means, of course, that the clock is running. And flags are down all over the field. The officials have seen one of the players violating the rules. So there you have it. I hope this little explanation makes it more enjoyable for you to watch San Francisco beat Miami next Sunday. But don't go away. The clock continues to run, and this show is far from over. I thought it was interesting that, again, San Francisco's in this year, but Miami's not. I guess it's San Francisco and New York, is it not?
I think so.
Yeah, I believe so. So, Andy Rooney, I think his comments are just as pertinent today as they were back in 1985. And Kevin, if you're going to go ahead now and put the song back up, or it's time to sign off for Lesson 11. I want to thank you, Kevin, and Jerry, of course, and my friends in the school system, Dr. Ferris and the Randolph County Board of Ed, for letting us use the building, Dee Roth for letting us use our room, and Richie Carr for allowing us to use the building, for all their help. So sing along or talk along or just follow the words as we take you out with Little Red Rented Rowboat again. I'll try to keep it slow. Little red rented rowboat, little red rented rowboat, not much better than no boat, but at least it'll go when I row, row, row. At least it'll go when I row, 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 row. I saw two pretty girls sunbathing on a pier. They wore bikinis way down to here. I waved and they waved. They said they'd like a ride, so I helped them climb inside to share my little red rented rowboat. Little red rented rowboat, not much better than no boat, but at least it'll go when I row, row, row. At least it'll go when I row, 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 row. Speeding up again already. Along came a sailboat big enough for two. The skipper saw the girls, I knew what he would do. He waved and they waved. He helped one climb inside. Just one girl to ride there in my little red rented rowboat. Little red rented rowboat, not much better than no boat, but at least it'll go when I row, row, row. At least it'll go when I row, 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 row. Sounds like a dog barking almost there. Row, 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 row. Hot rod motorboat roared up behind. The girl took a look and I could read her mind. She waved and he waved. He helped her climb inside, leaving me with wounded pride. Row, 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 row. 1 hour later, I saw them again. Motorboat out of gas, sailboat out of wind. They waved and I waved, and then I passed them by with my nose held way up high. Me and my little red rented rowboat. Little red rented rowboat, not much better than no boat, but at least it'll go when I row, row, row. At least it'll go when I row, 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 row. So I guess that song really means it's better to have the more primitive technology at times rather than having the other fancier stuff. Or maybe it's better just to depend on your own power. I don't know. So depend on your own power and get with that reading. Practice your songs, practice your lessons, have fun with it, and we'll see you next time.